Shea, 30 minutes after the last guy is off the floor, you're still out there going 3-on-1. Just tell me kind of what's going through your mind on a Sunday of training camp and the work that you want to get in a situation like this.
Um, it just comes down to me loving the game. I have certain things I want to get better at. The only way you do so is by working on it, and that's what I try to do.
The splits that you're working on out there when you got kind of the load guys and help, how much does that help you in those situations in terms of what you're actually going to see on the floor? Because you've talked about every drill you do is tailored to what you'll actually see.
Yeah, it's just about reading and reacting. Guys play off a feel, defenders and offensive players, and then sometimes they come over hard, sometimes they don't. It's just about me reading and reacting, so I had those guys mix it up to give me a live feel.
You got your first two opponents of the season on the road, both two really physical teams, big teams. Just your thoughts on kind of getting those games right away and getting to test yourselves against those types of squads.
Yeah, it's the beauty of the NBA. You can lose any night, you can win any night. It's the best players in the world, and you got to bring it. We know that. Coach always says 82 wins on our schedule and 82 losses, and that's how our motto. We go into the season, and we go into every night. Like if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we can't lose. And if we do what we're supposed to do, we have a good chance to win. Also might not win, but it gives us our best chance.
Coach mentioned this weekend you guys really got after it these last couple of practices. Just how valuable, I mean, you could speak to it more than anyone, knowing how little you guys are going to be able to practice in the regular season, how valuable these sort of practices are for you guys.
Yeah, it's our foundation. Like you said, we get the most in these practices just because we're not playing every other night like in the regular season. Then after this is learning on the fly and adjusting. I think we did a pretty good job of that last year, getting better throughout the season. But yeah, we're laying our foundation right now. I want to do so in a strong way.
And then wanted to ask you about Dub and kind of the growth you've seen from him, particularly when it comes to like him picking his spots and like moving without the ball. Have you noticed any kind of growth with him in that area?
Yeah, he's just becoming more comfortable. And a young guy that works out hard, you expect that from him. He loves the game. He wants to be better. He wants to be great. And he's going to do so as long as he stays the way he is, stays true to himself, and keeps working.
Shai, the way you guys want to play offensively, all five guys can dribble it, pass it, shoot it. That doesn't work quite as well if you're not willing to be off the ball some and not have the ball as much in your hands. What's been that process for you? What's made you willing to be that way?
The best teams, like the best teams that have played the game, the teams that have won the most games, won the most championships, they play together. I don't know if you saw Last Dance, the documentary, but there was a point in Michael Jordan's career where he had to learn the triangle offense and playing with not the ball in his hands 24/7. So if Michael Jordan has to do it, I definitely have to do it.
When you guys are playing that way, how much does a guy like Chet, like a five who can stretch it and pull guys away, how much does that help what you're trying to get accomplished?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's kind of obviously where the game's gone today, with guys that can do multiple things at multiple positions. We have a lot of guys on the team that can do so. And the more selfless, the more together we are playing offensively, the better we'll be. And I think we all know that.
Mark was saying during the COVID break, like you had played that year with Chris and Dennis, and so you're playing off the ball quite a bit. But he said you came back from the break when you guys got to the bubble with some more primary stuff, some more like on-ball stuff. Did you work a lot on that stuff in that gap?
Yeah, I worked a ton during COVID. Partially because I wanted to get better, but partially because I had nothing to do.
Sure.
But yeah, I was working on a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, playing with those guys only helped me. Playing with a guy like Chris, Dennis, guys that are on the ball and are dynamic on the ball and make you move off the ball. But yeah, those guys helped me for sure.
What's your comfort level with this team going into Wednesday?
Pretty good. I'm excited for the season. Now the real game's a little bit different, but we'll see come Wednesday, but I'm excited for sure.
You hit some of those closeouts really hard. It feels like you were right on top of the rim within a second. Do you feel like that's something over the last few years that you've been able to like attack those more quickly and more rapidly?
I mean, watching film definitely helps on that side, but it's just seeing the floor and taking my time, not rushing, not playing too fast, and really just read the game. And I feel like watching film, it was a big emphasis to me in the off season. So I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at that right now.
I know it's an every night thing for you because every NBA team has guys like this, but you just look at this first road trip and some high level scoring options in Chicago and then in Cleveland. Is it no better way for you to kind of get the season started in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I get ready for that in the offseason. I know I'm always excited to see the schedule, to see who I go against the first couple games. So I'm excited. You know, it's going to be some big challenges, and then you know I'm ready. That's what I train for, and then I'm ready to get started.
Also, some massive centers to try to lay some screens on you as well. Have you been gearing up your shoulders for that?
Yeah, I feel like this is every game. Honestly, there's a good big on every team for that. So yeah, I'm ready for that though. I'm ready.
Lou, Coach mentioned that you guys are really getting after it this weekend in practices. Just how valuable have these practices been, knowing that you guys are going to have a ton of practices during the regular season?
It's been huge. Just setting the tone. That's how we want to go every night, compete and play hard, and no matter what happens. You know what I mean? But the biggest thing is for us to go out there and really compete, and we've been setting a good tone with the practices.
You've had a couple of games now where you've been able to share the floor with Kaysen a little bit, be able to switch. Just how has that been, being able to switch with him off of, guys like Cade Cunningham?
It's good. The trust is there. He's a really good defender, good hands. And just knowing that he's calling the coverages behind me, and I know it's him, I'm feeling real comfortable to switch. And, he's been doing a great job on the ball.
What's your comfort level going into Wednesday in Chicago? What do you like about this team?
I mean, we're confident. We're going out there to try to fight and win a game. And it's going to be the first one. It's going to be the first one for a lot of guys on our team too. So we just ready. I mean, we're confident. I know the time we spent in practice playing hard, and then building the chemistry, and then now we're ready to go.
You mentioned on media day the little slump you had at the rim last year, and it has seemed better in preseason. What did you do to try to work on that? And how much of it is some of it a fluke when it doesn't go like it went last year?
Just taking my time, reading the defense, and not being too rushed, and not trying to go over 2 or 3 guys at the same time. Just reading the game. So this, like I said, it was a big emphasis for me in the offseason. Biggest thing was to watch film and see myself and tell myself what I could have done better. And yeah, I mean, it's still big for me. And yeah.
Is that what you saw? Just like picking spots, and sometimes there's a crowd, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I go to the rim, I'm going full speed, and I gotta, break at some point and read defense. So that was big, and I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job of that.
Where Chet goes, he doesn't need like a high volume of shots to be productive and efficient. What is it about him that allows him to be within a flow that he can score and shoot well despite not having a ton of shots, and not be the kind of guy that's then demanding more?
I think a lot of it's like, his size and skill is just going to yield, baskets in the game. Like he's going to get an offensive rebound, tip in, he's going to get a roll, he's going to get kind of a broken floor play where he's the recipient and he's so close to the basket he can finish very easily with great length and skill. And you're like at 6 points right there, on very easy stuff. Then he can shoot. And if he's making 1 catch and shoot a game, that's 9 points. And you could just see how the points stack up pretty quickly and pretty easily without a lot of effort on his part. And so it's about everybody learning how to get those things into the game in an efficient way that allows the rest of the team to function. And I thought in the preseason he did a good job of that.
And then I just want to ask you about Dub attacking closeouts. I think he got like 2.5 free throw attempts a game last year, but do you anticipate, just with the way that he's shown that he can do that with his added size, that number could even go up this year?
Yeah, I would expect it to go up. Great size, obviously, got stronger, but I also think he got more confident in where to attack. He was always a confident player, but the game slowing down for him learning where his cracks are is slowed down. And I think that's got something to do with it too. He's just more decisive when the ball's in his hands, punching those gaps and getting the defender in a non-legal position.
Following up on that, what about off the ball with him? He just seems to find the great, angle window on the floor whenever he doesn't have the ball in his hands. Have you noticed growth in that area as well for him?
Yeah, I mean, that was his first. We talked yesterday about Shai like this, but when he first got here, we weren't similar to Chet. We're not like trying to focus on, their top creation skills right away. We're trying to focus on the fundamentals that are going to allow them to be functional in the system and additive to the team and efficient in their individual games. And, last year, the first thing that showed up, even in Summer League last year, was the cutting and the spacing and the running. And when you look at his numbers, highly, highly efficient player per shot. But a lot of it's just like that kind of stuff. He's getting to the rim on his cuts. He gets out in transition, and he hopefully will get to the line a little more, and that'll give him, a nice, steady revenue stream, so to speak.
Mark, with the way you guys are playing offensively, there aren't a ton of 7-1 versatile defenders who also can give you some stretch at that position and can move the ball and pass it. How much does Chet potentially change what you're able to do?
He doesn't change it. He just enhances it, if he can do all those things. The shooting is definitely a thing. How dynamic he is with the ball is definitely a thing. But we like to have a system that can bend to the strengths of our players, but that isn't going to change around a guy's game. That's the heliocentric model isn't the way the team's built, and we don't think it's the best way to be competitive. And so even a guy like Shai, who you could make the argument, you just hand the ball every possession, something good's going to happen. There's kind of a ceiling on that approach that we're trying to steer away from. And we're trying to help these guys understand how they can invest in the offense in totality. And it hopefully will make us a better team and make them more efficient players in the process.
Right. Let me rephrase that. How much can the shooting from a guy who can defend like that, how much can that shooting help what you try to do?
Yeah, I mean, the shooting always helps. Defense always helps. Shooting always helps. When you look at the best lineups in the NBA, especially down the stretch of the season, top end shot creators, that can create advantages, and then shooting and defense. I mean, those tend to be the guys that are on the court in the big moments. And, no one's going to be a finished product, but when we look at the development of our players, we're looking at it through that lens. We're looking at, okay, how can this guy become that type of player? What does he need to work on in terms of his vulnerabilities, and where does he need to enhance his strengths in that area? And so he's definitely, obviously, Chet, helpful in that.
What's your comfort level with this team heading into game one?
You never really know. Your team just kind of declares itself early, and you just start the process of improving. If we came out and played a great game in game one, it wouldn't stop the fact that you got to be able to sustain that over time. You got to be able to improve on the marginal things. That's the great thing about the game. It's 48 minutes long. There's 105 possessions on each end of the floor. There's going to be some good things, and there's going to be some things you need to improve. You want to maintain the good, and you want to improve the bad. And we'll start that process. And I'm very comfortable with our group's ability to go through that process. I don't know exactly where we'll start, though.
You had mentioned in Tulsa that you guys are really going to get after it this weekend in practices. Just what's the energy been like? How productive have these practices been for you all?
Pretty good. I mean, we went really hard yesterday and today. It was good competitive juice. The reps, had great relevance. I think drilling has a little bit of a capacity in terms of how much it can help you translate things to the game. And so the more you can play live in practice, the better. Obviously, during the season, we're only going to have about 32 practices this season because of the schedule. And so you don't have the opportunity to do that all the time. So taking advantage of this time is really important.
Is that right? 32?
32. That's it. 32 practices. Give or take, we may add one or cancel one, but 82 games, 32 practices. It just gives you an appreciation for how much you're playing. And then the time in between the games, most of it's spent with recovery, trying to gear up for the next one. That's why learning through the experiences of the games is so critical, because you can't come in every day and smash.
And you get hit with 4 games, I think, in 6 days.
Yeah.
Is it ready or not?
Multiple times, and it's always going to be good. Everybody's going to look down at their schedule and say, oh man, this is a tough schedule. It's like, yeah, it's an NBA schedule. It's tough for everybody.
What do you think about that number 32? How does that make it more valuable? The sort of symmetry you have with the blue, that you're going to get some guys who aren't going to get to play a ton, and then if you've got so few practices, just the ability to kind of move them over, and the system is similar and all that.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's huge. And then the high intensity workouts here, there may be a non-practice day or a lighter practice day where, the guys that aren't, even the guys that are playing but not playing 30 minutes, they're getting good rhythm and run. And we try to really win those opportunities, because the cumulative effect of that is you have a more ready team. You have guys that are ready when they're called upon. I think it's good for their mental, to not just be sitting on the sideline if they're not playing. They're out there competing in one context or another, and then we evaluate it. Like our assistants and myself, if any of our players are playing in those contexts, we're watching. I was telling a player this morning, like the first time Isaiah Joe didn't come during camp, the first time I watched Isaiah Joe play and was like, wow, like there's something to this guy. Was a 3-on-3 game at that basket right over there. And so we have to win those moments, especially with a young team that's still developing.